By the time I say hi, we've got that little awkward weirdness going. We are now ready. We can see you. We want to have you participate in this live stream of the Bold Business Podcast here on August 3rd, where we are talking about the importance of CEO time. We're talking about the importance of strategy. We're talking about the importance of how do we do what we need to do when we need to do it and stay sane. All of those things may show up, but you know what? Since I'm starting this and I'm doing the open, after we hear the answers to the questions that our guests have brought us today, it may be something totally different. That is my favorite part about live streams. All right, all you Bold Business Podcast listeners, all you people stopping by on YouTube and LinkedIn who are taking the time out of your schedule to join us for this live stream, we are talking about mindset. We're talking about on business. We're talking about all kinds of other things that are to be revealed. So with that, I want to say hi, I'm your host, Jess Duell, and I'm super glad to be in our 4th season of the podcast and talking about these business topics that normalize uncertainty, that help us make the right decisions at the right time, because nothing is ever set in stone, and to stay curious and open and to be able to learn from each other. And with that, I'm going to let our guests today introduce themselves. And I did tell them ahead of time that we're just going to go in alphabetical order because it's super easy to go right through the alphabet. So Kurian, welcome. Please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Jess, thanks for having me on today. This is the second time, actually. Now it's the live stream, right?
That's right.
So, my name is Kurian Tharakan, and I am a marketing strategy consultant here in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada.
All right, Myoshia. I was going to say, that's perfect. Myoshia.
Okay.
Well, I'm so glad to have you on the live stream today, too. And tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, so likewise, it is our second time chatting. So thanks so much for having me today. My name is Myoshia Boykin-Anderson. I am the proud owner of Antec Solutions. We are an IT consulting company. And I'm also a business strategy mentor here right outside of Houston, Texas.
Oh, I am so, and for those of you who don't know, I'm still telling everybody that one day I woke up and my husband and I said, let's move. So we moved to Kirkland, Washington. So here today we have 3 time zones represented across North America, which is fantastic and exciting. And, you know, as we're talking and as we're getting to know each other, I can already tell the similarities between us, and they're right. Both of them have had conversations with me. And so for all of you watching and listening today, and I will tell you, you are in for a treat, because 3 weeks from now, the 3rd Thursday of August, is when the podcast that they are featured on will be published. So there is more to come on that front, and I'm super excited about it. All right, so I have asked each one of them to answer a question, and we're going to start with the answers to their questions, and then we're going to open it up to a roundtable. So for those of you who are stopping by, please feel free to share your thoughts in the comment, answer the questions, because we like to feature you as our watchers, as well as what our guests Kurian and Myoshia have to share with us today. So Kurian, what are the vital qualities that you are leaning into to navigate your company towards success?
Storytelling, very specifically storytelling. In fact, as you know, Jess, I wrote a book last year called The 7 Essential Stories Charismatic Leaders Tell. I think you can see it right back there. And there's 2 parts to that book. The very first part is all about the culture that you want to build in your organization. And the second part is how to infuse that culture with the energy of the stories that you tell. So you have to be very deliberate about the stories that you are giving your people. And through those stories, you give them a sense of purpose, a sense of vision, the energy to continue even when things are tough. And it's only through this ability to transfer your vision, mission, your bold future, that you're able to make your own people come alive. And what you really need is your people to come alive. In fact, one of my favorite quotes of all time is a quote by American theologian Howard Thurman. And it's paraphrased just a little here, but he said to young people, don't ask what the world needs. Ask what makes you come alive. Because what the world needs is more people who have come alive. And that's what you've got to do as a leader.
Thank you, Kurian. All right, Myoshia, what are the vital qualities that you lean into as you are building, growing, and scaling your company today?
Well, first, let me just say, Carrie, and I was here just nodding my head because I so believe in that, and that was so impactful for me. And now I'm even thinking about the stories that I tell my team. But I'll tell you just a couple of things that I've noticed that we're really intentional about and really leaning into. First of all, is as Kurian mentioned, it's the culture of my organization, making sure that those that enter into our experience, if you will, are ones that will complement the culture that, we are all here to serve a purpose, the culture that we are all here to respect each other, the culture that everything we do is in a spirit of excellence. So that's first and foremost, making sure that we are cultivating a culture that is conducive for integrity, excellence, and all of that. So that's the first thing. Secondly, I would say one of the things that I am extremely intentional about is offering ownership, or the sense of ownership, to my team. First and foremost, we already know that I alone cannot do this, right? So in order for us to be successful, it's going to take all of us. So I have fostered an environment where everyone feels a sense of ownership. I often tell my staff that they are the CEOs of their desks, right? And I learned this from my one of my business mentors, but they are the CEOs of their desk, which allows them to play full out, to lean all the way in their own right, in their own space. So that's been very, very important for us. And then lastly, I would say for my top three. So first is cultivating the culture that is who we are. Secondly is making sure that everyone feels a sense of ownership. But also, I've sort of fostered this environment where failure is not only welcomed, but it's not penalized. And I say that because I encourage my team to try new things, because if you don't try, you'll never know. So if that means that you fail in the process, as long as you're failing forward, I welcome that. I welcome that so much. And it's proven to be quite beneficial for us from a morale perspective, from a productivity perspective. So those are the top three things that I would say I'm truly leaning into so that we can drive the company towards success.
Yeah. I love that. Fail forward. Love that.
Fail forward. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I noticed you dropped some values into your answer, Myoshia. And I was curious, and I was like, ooh, yeah, resourcefulness and advocacy are two of ours at Red Direction. Kurian, what are the values that your company is delivering upon?
Well, so I'm involved with a few different companies here in Edmonton, and one of them is a digital marketing agency that specializes in the Shopify space, so for Shopify merchants. So we have about 16 people there, so it's not a large team, but it's not a small team either. And it's at the point where we actually brought in an HR consultant to help us develop a clear set of values for the organization. And one of the values is simply this idea of resilience. And and there's several of them, right? But resilience, positivity, where we are going forward, even in the face of whatever frictions maybe as present in the environment. So we are always maintaining that clarity of mind and that positive state, because we are in the energy transfer business. A large part, if you're a consultant, if you are a coach, you are in the energy transfer business. If you're morose, you're despondent, that's going to transfer as well. So what do you want your people to come alive with? And so these values that we have, and I wish I had all the values in front of me right now, but they are now something that we grade our people on. And the grading part is not it's a fail pass type of thing. It's rather, are you living the values that we are depending on you as a team member to move this company forward?
Interesting. How are you living the values, and you're grading them on that?
Okay.
So I'm guessing, Myoshia, you have something similar to that you're doing. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And it's so amazing that he said resilience, because that's one of our 4 core values. So my husband is from Jamaica, and in Jamaica, when something is good, they say it's IRE, right? So our values are actually IRE, IRIE. So it's integrity, it's resilience, it's intentionality, and it's excellence. So, so our values are IRE, and we want to make sure that at all times we are IRE, right? So I'll often ask my team during our daily stand-ups, how are we? Are we IRE, right? And if we're not, then where are those areas where we need to make sure we are getting there, right? As long as we are intentional about getting there, we're doing good. I love the idea of asking the question, and not just asking it, because I truly believe that we shouldn't just be hearers only, but doers as well. But how are you living those values? I love that, Kurian.
Yeah. And in fact, to the point, Myoshia, that we've had to let people go in recent months. Not anything to do with the economy. Simply, it wasn't a team fit. Now, what's curious about that is that prior to this, we were on the fence. Prior to the values exercise, we were on the fence about whether they should stay or whether they should go. Should we give them another chance? After the values exercise, it was so abundantly clear that it was not a fit. Right, and we were actually penalizing the remaining team members by allowing this individual to stay. And so it's the best thing for them, it's the best thing for our team, and it's the best thing for the company by living the values and making sure that everybody else is aware, and also knowing that they have to aspire to the values that they are adhering to.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. One of the things, just if I might, if I can, one of the things that I've also been thinking about lately, and I heard it in a presentation not too long ago, but the idea of not just being a culture fit, but also being a culture add, right? Like, as we are continuously evolving and all of that, are you, yes, a cultural fit for the company, but what other values do you bring that can add to us? So being a culture, not only a culture fit, but a culture add as well.
I'm telling you. And it's interesting. I like talking culture so much. I like experiencing and hearing how it's actually showing up in the businesses around us. And I know it's been amazing. The last year has really allowed people to go, what is and isn't my culture? Do I like it? Make changes, and then who fits and who doesn't, and being quick about those decisions at that point, because there's more clarity, to Kurian's point, than ever before. There's more clarity around, are you in or are you out? And that's not like you personally, but can you show up the way we need you to show up to do the work that we're doing here? And to be able to do a values exercise, to be able to take the time to have that kind of strategy, to put that communication into place. My question to you is, do you find that the slowing down to speeding up concept is something that benefits you in your leadership roles?
I definitely do. Yeah.
Yeah. I love it. I was like, people are going to ask, you're either going to ask me, what did you mean by that? Because sometimes that's how it happens. Or everybody's going to want to answer at once. I am excited. So I can't wait to hear.
Myoshia, you take that, and I'll follow up.
Okay, so one thing that this past year or a year and a half has taught us, and initially I'll tell you, I didn't come to this realization immediately. Initially I saw this as a not so good thing, right? That things were slowing down and all of that. But then we really got intentional about learning during that time, right? So really honing in on the idea that situations are not wins and losses, but they're wins and learns. So we really were very intentional about slowing down. And in that slowing downness, if you will, we've really been able to grow astronomically. So again, I don't want to say that, we were intentional about slowing down initially, because we were not. And quite honestly, I was not afraid, but I was anxious about the unknowing. But it's really proven to be quite valuable for us, because it's allowed this amazing season of growth for us. But it could have only happened when we were able to take a step back, just kind of pause for a minute, and really allow everyone to feel and experience everything about everything that was going on, and then ask ourselves, how are we going to show up, right? Like, how are we going to intentionally show up, not just now, but from now on? So yeah.
You're gonna have to write all these little jewels down, Myoshia. I'm gonna have to, fail forward, wins and learns. I like this. This is good. There's a book in there somewhere.
I feel it right in here, Kurian. I feel it.
Yeah. I can see you light up when you say it, so I know you believe it, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. This is really good stuff.
Yeah.
I'm in my mid-50s now, and I know I don't look it. That's part of my credibility problem.
I was going to say, looking amazing, Kurian.
So, but I come from a sales and marketing background, and in my 20s, it's go, 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 go. There's no stop. There's no pause. It's just go, 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 go. But you can't build you can't build a startup that way. There's a lot of drive, yes, but the speed will kill you. And drive and speed are different, right? Drive is energy and passion and vision and, and moving forward steadily towards that goal. Speed, though, is going to get you to make all sorts of mistakes. And one of the things that COVID did for us, and there's lots of downsides to COVID, but it was a forced respite. It was a forced respite that forced a couple of my businesses that I'm involved with to be very introspective about what the heck are we doing? And to be much more deliberate about it. So we've come out of COVID with a stronger structure. It's a stronger structure. There was definitely a pause there. You can see that those blips in the financial statements, but the structure is completely stronger. The profitability is stronger, and such. And so we built a platform going forward. And so this idea of speed and hustle culture and things like that, and I think the great lie as well that the universities of this world tell people, you're programmed, from a very early age, let alone in post-secondary, that there's a formula for success, and there is not. There's only a consistent persistence to drive towards the vision that you have. And you have to create your own formula that's specific to your business, your context that you are find yourself within. Along that way, you are still dogged by this idea of go, 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 right? And that's what ends up killing you. So one of the questions that people have asked me on a regular basis has been, what advice would you give your 20-year-old self? Looking back on it from this age, right? And the clearest advice that I would give my 20-year-old self is this: everything's going to be okay. And it's not because I've been given a formula or a plan that's guaranteed to win, but rather you're going to have that persistence and that adaptability and that ability to navigate whatever's in front of you. And I am almost dead certain the three of us, have that kind of confidence. We don't know what the economy is going to bring in the next 6 months, but we have a confidence in ourselves that we'll be able to navigate that. And that's the definition, I think, of my maturity today compared to my go attitude when I was in my 20s.
Okay, now I gotta know, Myoshia, do you have some advice you'd give your 20-year-old self?
It's simply, girl, trust yourself. Like
Right.
literally, girl, trust yourself. Because I spent a lot of time in my 20s not doing that. And if I could just go back and help her, that is the greatest piece of help that I can offer to my 20-year-old self. And it's literally trust yourself. And not that, to Kurian's point, not that it's always going to turn out right. Not that you have all the answers, but trust that you're going to be able to get to and get through whatever comes your way. And I mean, it's truly how I'm living my life now. And I was telling someone the other day, especially since I just came off of my birthday month, in which I celebrated all 31 days, but I also celebrated a little bit in June, and, all of that. But really just understanding that life is going to happen regardless.
Yeah.
And being able to make sure that when the storms come and you're going to be, knocked around, and even if you're knocked down, to not stay there, right? To be able to recognize that this too shall pass, to get up, dust yourself off, and to keep it moving. So that's what I would tell her.
I love that. You know what I would say? I would say, yes, those shoes mattered. Yes, those shoes mattered. The ones I chose to walk in, the ones that I was bold enough to step into, the ones that I had experiences in my 20s that most people don't. And so I actually, Kurian, you mentioned this, and I don't know if it was in jest or for real, but I do have credibility problems because of my age. And I think I'm just getting to the point that my age is actually working to my advantage, because there are things that come up where that person just can't be that old and have had that kind of experience before. And I'm like, well, why not? I did. But, because there's no relational point. And so that's where what I would lean into is a part confidence, part trust. Yep, those shoes mattered.
Yeah. Even the ones that hurt, right? The ones that
Always.
hurt.
That's right.
Especially the ones that hurt.
Yes.
because those are the ones you got to grow into, right? In the sense, stretch out into the.
Yeah.
Most people would not guess my age or anything about my background on site. What I'm finding now, though, in my 50s, I show up with a much more calmer energy to whatever I'm doing. It's a much more calmer energy. It is not this frenetic, puppy dog type of thing, trying to please everybody in my 20s and show them how smart I am. At this point, I don't care whether you like me or not. I just don't care. I don't care whether you respect me, whether you like me or anything like that. And because that says more about you than it does about me. I didn't know that in my 20s. I didn't know that in my 20s. But today, I know I have something to contribute to the conversations that I choose to be in. And whether you choose to reject that, accept that, or add to that, I'm perfectly fine with all three. Because I think I have a much more spiritual perspective as well. Because I know whatever happens, I'm going to be okay. Yeah. Right? And so now it's all about what's best for me, what's best for you, and what's best for us together. And whatever happens in this interaction, it's going to be just fine.
That's right. Yeah. So how do you slow down these days? in terms of, business keeps going, people keep needing your attention. There's all kinds of opportunities to be assessed. There's all kinds of distractions that come. They're the things that we want to be doing. How do you slow down to speed up today?
One of the things that COVID did was that my consulting business, the digital marketing agency was doing just fine. My outbound sales company was doing just fine, right? They were busy. But my consulting business, I do a lot of workshops and speaking things. That, of course, that tumbled. So that left me with a lot more free time. And so I did a lot more courses and education, lots of different things online on spirituality and meditation and a variety of things. It took a lot of things in that year and a half. And so one of the things I am very deliberate about today, in fact, is like having coffee in the morning. I do a 30-minute visualization. And I find this might be anathema to some people, but I find meditation kind of boring, and I'm not very good at it. Trying to calm my mind down to zero, right? I am terrible at that, and I find it boring. But I found a practice where you actually get into a bliss state, just on the basis of the gratitude that you have for what is, just for being. And knowing that you're going to be okay, and knowing that you've come this far by not trying to game the system. And you get into this bliss state because you're going to be just fine, because you're always going to be just fine, right? And so this bliss state happens, and then through that process, and sometimes it's 20 minutes and sometimes it's 25, right? And then, but in that, you visualize your intentions for the kind of life you want to live, and the kind of business you want to create, and the kind of opportunities you want to provide for your people, and all those kinds of things. And to the point today that it would be like walking outside naked if I didn't do that in the morning. And you don't want to see me naked, right? But it would be like that. So it's just like, one of the very first things I do when I wake up before the mind gets active.
That's brilliant. How about for you, Myoshia?
I love that. So I do almost the same. I am very intentional about starting my day with prayer and meditation, and part of that here recently has been the art of setting my intentions and really recognizing what those intentions are, and then just truly resting on Jeremiah 29:11 that says, "For I know the plans I have for you, and they are plans to prosper you and not to harm you." So I already know that there's already a plan of prosperity for me and my life. And that means prosperity in my marriage, prosperity in my health, which I am continuously working on. So I'm trying to swim in the morning, and I'm trying to ride my Peloton, and I'm trying to do all the things, right? But it's prosperity all around, in my marriage, in my health, as a mother, as a sister, as a CEO, as a friend, just prosperity all the way around. So really meditating on that, and in that time of prayer and communication, back to God, really being cognizant of what my intentions are, and recognizing that that yesterday is no more, and tomorrow will definitely have enough problems of its own. So really just focusing on the day, and trying to stay in the moment. But I'll tell you, one of the things that I've really mastered these days is the art of saying no. And I can say it a lot of different ways, and I have mastered it. No, now, just all of that, right? Hell no. But just all of it. But really being able to say no. I recognized how much I didn't say that, and not because I wanted to say yes, but I didn't want to say no to people and things and stuff. And I just learned how to say no. And in doing that, I am, whether I recognized it or not, and I definitely do now, by me saying no, I was saying yes to me. Mm-hmm. So that became something that that I just do now. And it made it easier that I moved out to the lake as well, because now I am an hour and 45 minutes from anything. So I don't have to be consumed with feeling like I have to say yes to stuff, because it's quite easy for me to say, nope, not going to be able to do it. I'm an hour and 45 minutes away. Sorry. But yeah.
That's interesting. And I put a requirement on myself for a period of time. My first quarter goals for 2021 was to consciously say no 3 times a day to things that were coming in, because I didn't I was saying no an okay amount. I didn't recognize, to your point, Myoshia, about how much time was being taken up and taken away from things that were really important to my priorities, which are my health, which include, for me, anything I do, I'll gain weight and will create stress in my body to make me not show up fully. So I've been navigating. I got to figure out, well, what is the thing? And it turns out it's not one thing, it's a lot of things, but I couldn't figure it out until I had the space with which to do it. And saying no is a great thing. Saying no to, no, I'm not going to watch the second episode or the next episode of that show back to the one I just did. No, I am not going to go to that particular event. Now, when I make a commitment, I do honor my past self and say, I did make that commitment unless I am sick or somebody, I have an emergency in my family, I will be there, because I do believe in commitment. So I'm not changing my schedule from that was set in the past. I'm really thinking about right now for the future. And that's actually a present piece. And so that's one of the things that I really have been focusing in on, of how do I slow down? I'm really present. What can I do to be right here, right now, and only be thinking about this, only being here with you, which allows me to go deeper with you, to be fully connected with you, even though we're in 3 different parts of North America. And I also take time out of my week every week. I have 4 hours that I take just for me personally, for my larger life. And I have 4 hours that I take just for my business, specifically around strategy for Red Direction, where I am intentionally working on things, visualizing things, assessing things, looking for the opportunities, making those, understanding what the big decisions are that need to be made, and making the ones that I have the space to make and can do so right then. So that, to the storytelling point, Kurian, I have the right messaging. I can help people lean in. I can help myself lean in when my shoes are too tight or I've worn them a little too long.
Yeah.
Do you have a cadence like that where you literally carve out time besides your daily? Because I also have daily things, right? Like I do a word of the day. I think that's quite fun for myself. And I have a daily routine too. But I'm just curious, do you look at that bigger cadence to help you be as present as possible in addition to the daily ones?
The only thing that I deliberately do is the morning session, right?
Yeah.
With my businesses, we have a very specific cadence on a daily, weekly, and a quarterly basis. And obviously it cascades into the full year as well, half years, that kind of thing, right? And what is very curious to me is that in my 20s and 30s, I was very quick to dismiss this kind of thing because, effort and speed will cure all. And that's okay from just maybe a sales perspective. But when you're trying to build a larger enterprise, it's just not very good on the way of engineering a structure that will last, right? Creating a resilient structure that will last. And the core part of that is the values portion of it. And then how you live those values through a cadence. And again, daily, we have I just got off a 8:00 sales meeting that we have every day. And then we have a different version every Wednesday, which is extended Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and it keeps going like that. There's quarterly things for the business as a whole. And the power of that was completely lost to me in my 20s and 30s. But today, if I were to start a brand new enterprise, it would start with that cadence, start with the values, start with that mission vision, right? Put it into a structure and build cadence into that structure. Yes. That's the only way it can be done in a way that lasts.
Yes. I love it. I am so I one of my business mentors has this thing called the CEO calendar, and the importance of calendar blocking and all of that stuff. I have not mastered that yet. I have to admit, one thing I have done, however, is I am very intentional about my Mondays. I am intentional about my Fridays. So I do not take client meetings or any of the such on Mondays, because Mondays are my intention days for the week. It is the day where I am intentionally setting and creating and implementing strategy for the week. And it's my time for planning. So that's my Mondays. My Fridays are really Myoshia days. Like, they are literally my days. And I can do whatever I want, or I can simply do nothing at all. And there have been some of those days as well. So that means I'm very strategic about how Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday looks, of course. But Mondays and Fridays are very intentional days. One, to set the strategy, and that's Monday. And then two, to just refresh and renew, and everything that I need to do to make sure I'm ready to do it all over again the following week. So those are the 2 days that are not questionable. They are non-negotiable. But that means that Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays are quite full of the things that are going to be revenue generating, and all of that stuff for the company.
Yep. Oh, I'm telling you, it's so funny. So you'll see on my calendar, the only things I have time blocked are Jessica time and Red Direction present retreats. That's it. Everything else is on the calendar, but I'm like, whatever. Now that looks like a to-do list, so I'm not going to look at my calendar. And so to the point of I'm listening to each of you, and I'm also evaluating myself and all of that. And we have 3 different ways to approach the skill we use, when we use it, how we use it, to be present, to be intentional, to be deliberate, to be able to know what we're doing and when we're doing it, and that we should be doing it at all. Because I have to tell you, when I find out I've been doing stuff that I really didn't need to be doing, or I wasn't as intentional as I could have been, so there's not the result, or there were actually cues there that was not really good for whatever the situation was. It was not a right now, and sometimes it was a never, but we went forward anyway for whatever reason. Those are the types of learnings that I'm just like, how cool is it? And what I have found is that one block of time, that to your Mondays, mine is also on a Monday. I call them present retreats. Sometimes they last all day. But I have a commitment of a minimum of 4 hours. But the point being is, how do you use that and create spaciousness? And I heard that from both of you, that whatever structure you have, the purpose of that particular structure for that intentionally on business time, as little or as big, for self or for business, its purpose, an outcome of that is to have spaciousness with which to see more, do more, experience more, structure more. Some of us would like to do that, right? Is that what you're taking away? Do you have things that you would add to that?
There's a line, I think, from an ancient religious text. I think Krishna may have said it or something like that. I'm not a follower of Hinduism, but it's a very poignant line, and it's about equanimity. And equanimity is a leader's greatest gift to their people, as a calm, cool, collected mind, regardless of the situation. And and unless you possess that calm, cool collectedness, you can't possibly analyze, assess, understand the context and the proper strategy to deploy and how to deploy that strategy, because you do not you're consumed by emotion. You're consumed by stress, anger, fear, hate, whatever it is. Those aren't proper foundations for proper decision making. And so this equanimity is, I think, what you're saying by spaciousness, this idea of a calm space in your mind where all of these things can coalesce. so that you can see with clarity what is really going on instead of what appears to be going on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love that, Kurian. I love it. Well said, both of you guys. I literally just agree with it all. It's almost like you have to step back and step up so that you can could look down on what's really going on. And until you allow the space for that, you're going to always be in the midst of it. So you're going to remain in this reactive state as opposed to being, proactive. So these days are intended for me to be proactive about what's about to happen. So that I don't find myself as much as possible, because again, like I mentioned earlier, life is going to happen, right? But the more and more you practice on having that time and having those those intentional spaces, the more and more you practice that, the more you find your ability to be better even in your reactive state, right? So yeah.
Every week I try and put out a quote of the week, the Kurian M. Tharakan quote of the week.
I love it.
I'm trying to promote the book through that. But it's just realizations that I've had during the course of the week or the month or whatever. Somebody said something and, wow, that's a fundamental truth. And I put it out on LinkedIn. And Myoshia, you and I will have to definitely connect on LinkedIn after this.
Definitely.
I think Jess and I are already there. But this particular quote of the week, I think, speaks to what we're talking about now. And that is that in every situation, we have the opportunity to either react or respond. Reaction is a simple reflex, whereas response takes an opportunity. You must take an opportunity to step back and assess what is really going on, the context and the meaning of the situation. Reaction is a natural part of who you are, but response, the ability to proactively respond, is factory aftermarket, not factory installed software. It's aftermarket software where most of us have forgotten to install.
Yes.
Right?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, you have to respond. You can't react.
Yeah.
I butchered that a little, but I think you guys get the message.
Well, and it's true, by the way, and I can speak from being in the middle of a very tough time. Moving is not easy. We moved, not only did we not move down the street or around the corner or in the same state, we crossed state lines, several of them, in fact. And my capacity to be present is high. My capacity to actually pause is low. And so every once in a while, actually, it's a lot. I'm going to be totally real here. It's a lot right now. I'm snippy. I'm short. I'm like, whatever. I want to throw my hands up. And I'm like, man. And then to be able to acknowledge and say, hey, I'm in this place. I'm not doing a very good job. And I'm asking for help. Each week I'm like, well, here's where my capacity is. Where is yours? And we do that in every meeting anyway. I'm actually more aware of it at the moment, because if I have to make decisions quickly, I am not going to do a much poorer job right now. So anything I can do to put off making a decision to my buckets of daytime things that I have, the better off I am, because I have to maximize the capacity that I have today and recognize it's not my regular capacity. And I think that that's what came up for me, Kurian, as you were just sharing, is that we all have a capacity and it's going to change. And we can't judge ourselves based off of a past highest, best time. We really need to judge ourselves and show up in the time and the place that we are, knowing that we are capable of more, and how capable can we be with exactly where we are. And by the way, I've had the best successes of my entire life, not comparing myself to the past, but doing the best that I can with what I have, has gotten me more powerful results, even at low capacity times.
I love it.
What are I want to hear, because we could go on all day about this, and I know I want to honor our time. I want to honor our listeners. I want to honor you. What are some last thoughts that came up that maybe didn't have a place, but they go in this conversation, or a final summary thought of how this conversation is helping you, supporting you, whatever is coming to mind that should be said right now in context of our present moment.
I think if I look back, it's the difference between how I approach things today in my 50s as opposed to how I conducted myself in my 20s. And I mentioned earlier that in my 20s, I desperately wanted to be liked and respected. In my 50s, I just don't care anymore because that's all ego driven. And when I remove my ego, equanimity can take place, and having that calmness of that you don't have to prove yourself, that you don't need this other person's respect or liking or anything like that. But you have to still show up and do what's best for you and them and us together. And that's your responsibility. As long as you do that, then everything's going to be okay, even if it doesn't appear like it right at this point. I think another one of these quotes of the week was, it is easier to do the right thing the first time than to undo the wrong thing at any time. So do the right thing the first time, even if it hurts. And that's how you tend to stay on a path that you can live with yourself in, right? But also, surprisingly enough, everything sort of works out.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. The thing that's coming to mind right now, first of all, the whole idea of equanimity. One, because I love 5-syllable words, but two, though, because when you talked about our ability to be cool, calm, and collected, right? It really causes me to think about one of the things that I'm really, really trying to do these days, and that is to lead with conviction. That's what keeps coming up in my head right now, is our ability to lead with conviction. And that conviction is that we know it's all going to be okay. So instead of us being reactionary to whatever this event or thing is, we are going to step back. We're going to remain cool, calm, and collected. And I'm going to make sure that, one, I exhibit this behavior in front of my team, that I am truly living out loud in front of them, but that I'm also leading with conviction. And that ultimately is going to make us a better organization. It's going to make us better individually, but it's going to make us better collectively as well. And when we're all better, we can't help but do better things. So that's, when I think about success, that's what I think about.
Kurian, Myoshia, Bold Business Podcast listeners, I'm telling you, they brought it, didn't they? They did. They brought it. We're talking about, what do we lean into? How do we show up? This concept of, can we be present? What does that look like? Are we talking about equanimity? Are we talking about intentionality? Yes, 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 and more and more and more. So thank you for being here today. Thank you for being part of the Bold Business Podcast. And listeners, I'm telling you, Bold Business Podcast listeners, who do you know that could benefit from one of these uplifting messages today? Share this out. Let them know that there is something here that Myoshia and Kurian have brought to the table that will help them through whatever they're working on, to remain, build, improve confidence, to recognize what we have going on and being intentional about it, and that it's all okay. And most importantly, everything happens for a reason. So take that to mind, take that to heart, and take it out into the world. Until next time.